Now it's time for This Week at Ball State, a look at what is happening on the Ball State University campus. Your host for This Week at Ball State is Jim Nickerson.
After 47 years as a prestigious teachers' college with a worldwide reputation for its work in teacher education, Ball State became a university. That was 10 years ago this week. The man who headed this institution during its formative years and was president when the Indiana General Assembly passed legislation making it possible for the name to change to university was President Emeritus John R. Emens. Dr. Emens, how does an institution such as Ball State make the transition from teachers' college to university? It isn't easy.
It isn't easy. Ball State was already recognized across the nation as one of the most outstanding of the teachers' colleges, and we had established the master's and the specialist degrees and also the doctor's degrees. We had outstanding support from our total community from the beginning, such things as the fact that the Ball brothers had given the campus, such things as Christie Woods and the art gallery and such things as this helped us. The fact that we had a faculty that was outstanding and nationally recognized, and a student body that was growing and increasing in size. These were all parts of the total thing. Go ahead.
Would Ball State University have achieved the status of university without community support?
No. Our community support was one of the most important parts and elements of the total thing. Of course, some people across the country were already saying we were the only teachers' college in the country that was really a university but called ourselves a teachers' college. We had so many of the elements that are in a university, the doctor's degrees, the faculty, the research work, and such things as that. Our community foundation helped us a great deal.
Even in retirement, you have remained loyal to the university, especially in the area of fundraising. Could you tell us about your latest efforts?
Well, I think most all of us who are emeriti at Ball State and who have been associated with it are ready and willing to continue to support the university. Well, surely I've acted as chairman of a couple of committees, but so have such people as Dr. Cooper, and even some of the widows like Mrs. Fred Smith has given money and set up a scholarship. These emeriti people, the people who, as I probably a lot of times said, the people that were here early set a foundation that upon which we set up a superstructure, which we now call the university.
One thing I've noticed personally in observing you occasionally on campus, that you still enjoy talking to the students as you're doing here this morning.
That's what we're here for. If we didn't have students, we wouldn't have a university. And of course they're the most important part. I interviewed every senior. I was here for the first 5 years just to find out what they thought about what was going on the Ball State Teachers College campus then. Students still have ideas that we need to listen to and pay attention to. They are the major part of a university, and they always will be.
The university and the community recognized your leadership and stewardship, Dr. Emens, when they named this magnificent auditorium in your honor. It was another joint venture in town and gown to provide cultural opportunities for Eastern Indiana.
I'm sure that you know, most everyone knows, that when they talked about naming this auditorium the Emens Auditorium, I told the board I didn't think it should be done at that time. I think they should wait till a person retires. And Mr. Bracken, who's president of the board, said, now look, Jack, you've been president of this institution longer than anybody else, and we're going to name it that whether you like it or not. So I think of course, it's been a very great honor, and I'm very proud of it. Now, as a community endeavor, my friends across the nation and presidents of other institutions will almost call me a liar when I tell them what kind of support we had, because you see, we had 40 different plants in which the employees voted payroll deductions to help build this auditorium. And Frank Bernard and the leaders in the community, Ralph Whiting and the others who worked with the foundation, really did a job on helping us to get the total community involved in a college and community auditorium.
Among the many, many programs offered here each season is the annual University Singers Spectacular. The singers had their first appearance in Emens Auditorium almost 10 years ago this week, when they performed for University Recognition Day. Public will have an opportunity to hear the university singers this Friday night at a free public musical celebration at 8 p.m. The singers, along with the Muncie Chiefs of Harmony, 2 dance groups, the Band of Oak Folk Dancers, and the Contemporary Dance Theater, the Wind Ensemble, Trombone Choir, and Noriko Kitagaki, a graduate student in violin from Japan, will present a gala program, and you're all invited to see this. Dr. John J. Pruis has been president of Ball State University for 7 of the 10 years at the Muncie School as Many University. President Pruis, what are the greatest satisfactions that you've had as head of a rapidly growing, emerging university?
Well, there have been many, Jim, of course, and it really is a little hard to put them in any kind of priority ranking. Certainly the opportunity to work with the people of Ball State would have to come first. And that includes the students, the faculty, the staff, the trustees, the alumni, the members of the community. Everyone has been just great to work with. It's one of the things that has enabled us to make the progress that we have made. In addition to that, of course, the opportunity to see new programs develop and to see the graduates of the university serve the people of the state of Indiana and well beyond its borders. Those would have to rate as very high on the list.
With the end of the Vietnam War and the draft, and also a decline in the number of high school graduates the last 2 or 3 years, where does Ball State expect its students in the future to come from?
Well, actually, the number of high school graduates has not yet declined, Jim, but this is about the point where they will begin to decline. The 1975 class year, I think, still is the peak. But what you have said is true nonetheless. And it seems to me that one of the opportunities for Ball State University in the years ahead is to look at what I like to call the new clientele, the could-be and the should-be students. We've seen a rather dramatic growth in our continuing education programs in just the past couple of years, and this is the area that I think will provide the greatest growth in terms of numbers of students. Now, in addition to that, I am sure that there will be changes in curriculum, in offerings, in new programs, which will attract some other people to the campus. Those would have to be the 2 big ones.
For example, just today we have a conference on new learners.
Yes, indeed. The university, in cooperation with the American Association of Higher Education, is sponsoring a regional conference, and we're very delighted to have people from this state and from Illinois in attendance with us. The subject of that one has to do with the new learners. So you see, everyone around the country is thinking about this same problem. Looks like an exciting program.
Ball State is, as its name implies, a state university. How much of its financial support comes from the state legislature?
Well, it ranges from year to year depending on what the appropriation level is, but it is roughly between 65 and 70%. That percentage has gone down just a little bit recently, but the students pay about 25%, a little over 65% this year from the state, and then the balance would be from outside gifts and grants.
Such as federal and private grants.
Yes, indeed.
Now, how is Ball State faring in this period of rapid inflation?
Well, we're facing the same problems that all of our viewers are. We have to buy coal, we have to buy electricity, we have to buy water, we have to buy all of the supplies. Mentioning supplies, paper, we use a lot of paper. It's one of the commodities that has gone up just dramatically, and we are facing very tight problems.
President Pruis, what is Ball State's greatest challenge as it faces the next 10 or 25 years of serving Indiana students?
Well, in 25 words or less, and right off the top of the head. Surely the greatest challenge to the university in the next 25 years, and incidentally I think it's the same as it has been all the way along the line, is to look at society and ask, what does society need and how can we help in solving some of those problems? I don't care what generation it is, what decade it is, what century it is, there are always problems, and then there is the need to find people to think about them, to work at their solution, and then to help carry them out. So if you'll tell me what the specific problems are in the next 25 years, I'll be more specific in my response.
Tomorrow is University Day at Ball State in recognition of the 10th anniversary of becoming a university.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the planned events to which the public could attend?
Well, we have a rather wide variety, and we would hope very much that a number of our viewers would come in to see these. Starting off at 9:30 in the morning in Emens Auditorium will be the principal convocation, if you will, in addition to a number of greetings which will be expressed by various representatives of the university and the larger community of Muncie and the state of Indiana. We will have Dr. Samuel Gould, who will be speaking on new approaches to education. He has been chairman of the Committee on Non-Traditional Studies, a man with an extraordinary background. Just this very week has been selected as one of the 44 top leaders in education, according to Change magazine. So that will be a very fine program. Following that, we will have what we call University in Action. Beginning at 11:10, since that's the time that our classes start at that period of the day, opportunity will be given to visit a number of classes. These are all posted, will be posted in Emens Auditorium. They will be available in a brochure for anyone who would like to pick it up, and people are welcome to go into those classes. During the lunch hour, people will have the opportunity to have lunch in one of the residence hall dining rooms if they would like, to meet with students, to see what it's like to eat in a residence hall, to sample the food, and simply to enjoy that part of college and university life. Then in a 2-hour block in the afternoon, we are having a series of forums in which a number of people have been invited to participate as panelists discussing some of the larger and some of the smaller issues, rather specifically, on what is ahead for the university or what are some of the problems that we might see for the university. Again, the public is cordially invited to attend. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the Ball State University Student Foundation is hosting a reception in Cardinal Hall prior to a dinner which will begin at 6 p.m. And at the dinner, we will have as our Master of Ceremonies the very distinguished President of our Board of Trustees, Mr. Alex Bracken. And speaking at the program, briefly, I trust, will be Mr. Van Smith from Muncie, who is Chairman of the Commission for Higher Education here in the state of Indiana, as well as myself. And then we move on to Emens Auditorium again at 8 p.m. for a very gala musical celebration. This is a time when we'll all relax and enjoy the beauty as well as the efficiency of that fine auditorium, with community groups and university groups presenting a musical program. It's free of charge, and we invite everybody to come in and enjoy it.
First 10 years ago was a memorable day for Ball State.
Indeed it was, Jim, and we are happy that this evening we can present some pictorial representations of what happened then and what has happened since. So Miss Marie Fraser, Director of Public Information Services at Ball State University, will take us on that tour now.
It's been a busy decade since Governor Roger Brannigan signed the bill which made Ball State a university on February 8, 1965. 4 days later, after that signing, we had a university recognition program on the campus, much like the program that will occur tomorrow. We changed, one of the events at the recognition program was changing the sign from Ball State Teachers College, a name that we'd carried for 47 years, to Ball State University. And present for the signing, of course, were three of the Delaware County legislators who made this possible, and Lieutenant Governor Robert Rock, who's now mayor of Anderson. It was also an occasion to introduce the new university officials, the vice presidents, the deans who were supporting President Emens in the task of guiding the new university. Representative David Metzger, Senator Rodney Piper, and George Stevenson, all from Delaware County, were responsible for the legislation that made Ball State a university. And here they proudly hold a copy of the Muncie Star, a commemorative issue which was put out for the occasion. There are three anniversaries, actually, in 1965. The university's anniversary, one for the University Singers, and another for the College of Architecture. The University Recognition Day program on February 12, 1965 marked the first time that the University Singers were ever seen on the Ball State University campus. Since that time, the Singers have had wide exposure not only throughout Indiana, but literally throughout the United States and outside continental United States. They've sung in Greenland and Newfoundland and at the Expo 74, and for the Indiana Society in Washington, D.C., following the inauguration of President Nixon in 1963. A month or more after the bill was signed, the community got together and we had a special luncheon to pay tribute to the people in the community who had helped us not only become a university, but also to be selected to be the site for the new College of Architecture. Wayne Botkin, the advertising manager for the Muncie Star, passes out a free copy here to Ed Ball. Among the people who helped us, of course, were Mayor Hampton and Robert O'Bannon and the Chamber of Commerce and Mr. Piepenbrink, Mr. Ball, and John Visser, who was the president's assistant at that time. The University Singers has been popular with many audiences, and Edgar Whitcomb, former governor of Indiana, made a special trip to Ball State a couple of years ago to pay tribute to the Singers and to give them a citation. Emens Auditorium was completed the year before we became a university, but it has been the focal point for many of the events that have gone on the campus during that period of time. The skyline has changed at Ball State since 1965, and I suspect this is the part about the university that is most visible to the public and that they're most aware of what's happened from Riverside North. And in the fall of /65, we opened the Studebaker East Residence Hall. And in 1966, started construction on the largest of all the residence halls, La Follette, which was a multi-million-dollar project to house 1,900 students. And here it is today. In 1966, the Naval Armory was phased out, and we acquired this property at McKinley and Neely, and for a while it housed the College of Architecture and now the College of Business. Over on Riverside in 1966, we started construction on the Physical Science Math Complex and immediately added a central unit for nursing. And for a time it appeared that we were going to remain in the present library building, and the Assembly Hall was phased out with the Emens Auditorium completed, and the space that had been used by Assembly Hall was converted to stack spaces and reading lounges. It was also a happy day in 1967 when we held the last football game, September the 30th, on the Old West Field. And in October of that year, we were able to move to the new stadium out on Bethel. Speaking of football, we have to think of the band. The football team went to Murfreesboro, Tennessee twice in 65 and 67. The band went with them. And in 1966, the band also represented Indiana in Lyndon Johnson's inaugural parade. The first high-rise building on the campus, of course, was the 11-story Teachers College building, which was dedicated in 1968. Also that year, we broke ground on the Earl Johnson residence halls, which was to be the last of the residence hall complexes as students showed a tendency to move off campus. Now they're moving back on. The Johnson complex up on North McKinley also serves as a residential learning and living center in the Carmichael halls. Life science was the third and final phase of the Cooper complex on Riverside, and it was started in 1968. It was a great day in May 1970 when the biology students were able to move literally the microscopes and other breakable equipment from Old Science Hall, which was built in 1922, to the new Life Science building. And here we see the completed complex, which in 1971 was named for Dr. Robert Cooper, Professor Emeritus of Science and head of the science departments. In 1965, when the legislature granted Ball State the right to have the College of Architecture and Planning, they also said they would help us build a structure to house the new building. But it wasn't until about 1970 that we actually got the construction underway for the College of Architecture and Planning up on Riverside and Neely. This building was dedicated December the 2nd, 1972, a 6-story building for architecture and landscape architecture. Parking has become quite a problem on the campus, as everyone knows, so we finished this parking structure in 1973 and provide places for the students and faculty and the public to park. But a lot of our students have taken to bicycles, and as anyone who's driving in the vicinity of the university knows, the bicycle population is pretty heavy in the spring and in the fall. And we've also gone to a campus bus system. The home management house was completed in 1971 for senior home economics students. And in 1973, University Hall was dedicated. Arthur Fiedler, the director of the Boston Pops Orchestra, was on hand that day for the dedication of University Hall and received an honorary degree. Under construction now, and expected to be completed this summer, is the almost $15 million Bracken Library on McKinley. The Bracken Library and the College of Architecture, University Hall, are all part of the changing scene up on McKinley, on what we call the Northeast Campus. North Hall is the last remnant of the World War II barracks that were brought to the campus in 1945 to take care of our rapidly expanding student enrollment. Among the new programs, academic programs on the campus that have come into being since 1965, since we became a university, of course, is the architecture program. And in 1966, we opened the school with 3 professors and almost 200 students. Architecture is attracting men and women students, and in 1971, the first class which from the 5-year program graduated. To architecture has been added a 5-year program in landscape architecture, and just recently the master's degree program in both areas was granted. In 1965, Ball State was interested in a medical school program too, and made another attempt in 1967. However, this was not to be. But because of the great emphasis we put on medical education and our ability to mount a program of medical education, in 1970, we opened the first to the first class of 4 medical students for first-year medicine. Now we have 20 students in first-year medicine, and they're doing their work on the campus and at the Ball Memorial Hospital. The first director was Charles Boyer, and the present director is Anthony Bell. The students go to Indianapolis for the 2nd and 3rd year and may come back to Muncie for the 4th year. It's an area that we feel that we can make a significant contribution. The family residency program at Ball Hospital also has the support of Ball State University, and students take work on the campus, and these students were the first to receive a postdoctoral degree. Nursing is another expanding program that we have been able to offer to students, and with affiliation with 7 other colleges in Indiana. It's a field that's also open to men and offers wide opportunities for men students. Journalism, another program that's growing rapidly at Ball State the last few years, providing students with opportunities at both the undergraduate and the graduate level. Our students go to Indianapolis for the session of the legislature, and here you see 2 Ball State journalism students interviewing Representative Leo Vissard from Muncie. Accounting is another area in which students are finding an opportunity to get a job once they're through. Accounting students have opportunities working with the computer. There's an internship program in reputable accounting firms throughout Indiana. Special education under state law has attracted people into working with retarded, the handicapped, the deaf, in various areas of special education. Radio and television, an expanding area on the campus, and our affiliation with the Indiana Higher Education Telecommunications System makes it possible to share it with other universities. And we're very happy with our affiliation with WIPB through the Eastern Indiana Television Council. Chemistry is an area that we have been accredited in. Well, these are just some of the new programs that have come on stream or have been expanded since 1965. But the ever-present figure of beneficence on West Campus reminds us of the fact that many people have helped to make Ball State possible through their gifts through the years.
Each week on This Week at Ball State, we present a work of art, usually from the Ball State Art Gallery, but today we're going to talk about one of the best-known works of art on the Ball State campus with Marie Fraser, Director of Public Information Services. Marie, this is indeed impressive and, of course, well-known.
Yes, this statue of Beneficence by Daniel Chester French was next to the last piece he did before he died at the age of 81. The piece was commissioned by a group of Muncie businessmen in 1927 as a special way of saying thank you to the Ball family for the many things that they had done for the community, including this university. And French was commissioned to do it. The statue was completed in 1930. Unfortunately, the Depression had come along. There was no money to put it up, so it was not until 1937 that Muncie Chamber of Commerce, school children in Muncie, and a lot of people helped to give funds to complete the statue. And basically the work that had to be done was the 5 pillars honoring each of the Ball brothers and the landscaping, and that work had been planned by Richard Henry Dana, who incidentally was the grandson of of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow.
That's very interesting. Could you also authenticate the fact that this was the next to last piece that French did?
Yes, I might say that many people pass this statue every day. Hundreds of Muncie people pass it. Hundreds of students pass it. And if you mention the name Daniel Chester French, they probably don't know that name. But if I tell you that Daniel Chester French's first piece was the Minuteman at Concord, which was dedicated April the 19th, 1875, for our centennial. And one of his most famous pieces was the seated figure of Abraham Lincoln in the Lincoln Memorial, completed in 1922. Then immediately people know who Daniel Chester French is. So in that respect, we have a very famous piece of sculpture here. I would say that Daniel Chester French ranked along with Lorenzo Taft and James Earl Fraser as the 3 outstanding sculptors of their period. And it's very unusual for a community to have a piece like this. Lovely bronze statue.
That's the way it is in 1975. Ball State University looking towards the future, serving the state of Indiana through good teaching, public service, and research.